Entertalk Radio. You're in to all things music.
May the best brand win with Scott Robertson's Music Biz Marketing Strategies. Now, here's your host, Scott Robertson.
Hey, everybody. Happy Friday. You are tuned to May the Best Brand Win, only on Entertalk Media, the undisputed leader in music biz talk. I am Scott, your host, a man who is celebrating Tres de Mayo with a little bit of tequila and chips today. You know, got to have chips with what you're doing. It's a little pre-Cinco de Mayo celebration. With me in the booth is the man behind it all, making it all sound good, Paul B. Are you doing anything for the big Cinco de Mayo coming up?
I don't think so, but I didn't realize that Tres de Mayo is a thing.
It can be.
It can be. Actually, I'm doing my Rec Reviews podcast later where we drink and talk crap about Marvel movies, so I guess that'll be my thing.
I like it. I got, if you turn on Periscope, you can see I got my little Thanos character from Endgame right here next to me.
Nice.
There's Thanos right there. There he is.
That's what we're doing. We're gonna be talking about Endgame.
Nice, man. I love that movie. That was killer.
It was
I
good.
Loved it.
Yeah, it was good.
It just rocked. Loved it. We could get into that all day, but we got a lot to cover today because you guys are smart because you were tuned into episode 122 of The Big Show, which we call State of the Media 2019. You know, and I've been doing some, a company called Cision in the PR industry does a State of the Media kind of brief that they put out there. And it just occurred to me how different the media landscape is today than, when I started my own business even 8 years ago. So basically, we're going to cover that. I mean, for example, did you know that basically 6 large companies control more than 90% of what Americans read, watch, or listen to? It's changed quite a bit. And, when there were a lot more companies in charge back in the day. And so as a marketer, we need to know that because we need to know what channels are going to reach our audiences, and who controls those channels can become very, very important as you start to, figure out what your strategy is going to be. So we're going to dig into that. We're going to talk about who owns what, since when, and all kinds of fun stuff. And by the time you're done, you'll know some stuff. And as the prophet G.I. Joe once said, knowing is half the battle. And the other half is not doing anything too stupid. And we're going to cover that during the winning and losing segment like we always do. So strap in, sit back, and join me for another time-traveling, informative, quasi-entertaining, award-winning episode of the big program. Here only here on Entertalk Radio. Periscope, you guys are along for the ride as well. So let's talk about it. Jeez. So, man, a while back, a guy that does a blog called Frugal Dad started putting out messaging about the consolidation of media, right? And did so in a pretty, entertaining way, and it's been picked up, a lot of places, since then. But basically what Frugal Dad basically says is that in 1983, 90% of American media was owned by 50 companies, right? Now here in modern times, that same 90% is now controlled by 6. Those 6 companies are, well, at the time that Frugal Dad did his thing, interesting because we can talk about a little bit of a shift even since then, is basically you have General Electric, News Corp, Disney, Viacom, Time Warner, and CBS. Now, since then, GE is out because Comcast now owns NBC, Universal Pictures, all those things. That's all Comcast, right? So Comcast becomes that other big block in there. Disney now owns a few more properties. They own 20th Century Fox and that. So if you want to look at the kind of the media landscape, and I think it's kind of fascinating to do that, you can look and see, and we're not just talking about news. We're also talking about content. We're also talking about distribution of content. We're talking about all those kind of things together. And the media landscape now is made up of Time Warner, Comcast, Netflix, Disney, Sony Pictures, Fox is in there somewhere. Fox is owned by, Fox but part of Fox now, 21st Century Fox, the film studio and all of that and the television production stuff is now owned by Disney. And if you look at some of the market caps on these companies, this is what becomes really fascinating. So AT&T Time Warner, which owns HBO, DirecTV, Turner, which is CNN, TNT, TBS. They own Warner Brothers. They own all of that, right? And they have a $231 billion market cap. They have 23 million video subscribers and 16 million broadband subscribers. So that's substantial, right? You've got now it's closely behind them. You've got Disney, 21st Century Fox with $202 billion market cap, and they have ESPN, Lucasfilm, Marvel, ABC, 20th Century, all that fun stuff. Now you got Netflix in here with 160 billion, and 139 million, subscribers, right? Obviously a little bit different business model too, but and not quite as much fragmentation. It's just a big blob that says Netflix. Then you also have Verizon in there. Verizon's in there at $242 billion, with 5 million video and 7 million broadband subscribers. And you have Comcast in there, as we mentioned. Comcast now owns NBC, Universal Pictures, Universal Studios, all of that fun stuff goes under Comcast. Now, any way you kind of slice it, right, you have this massive consolidation in what's going on in media. You have a consolidation from, this wild 50 company thing all the way down to 6 companies, and don't forget, Viacom's in there and they have MTV and BET and Paramount Pictures and all this kind of things. So a couple of interesting statistics is that the big 6 basically control between 70 and 80% of all cable television, right? They control the Comcast NBC merger. They control 1 out of every 5 hours of television now with that. And they have a complete monopoly in 11 of the United States markets, including New York City and Chicago, which is kind of fascinating. 178 million unique users are reading news put out by Time Warner every month, right? Huge. That's huge. But what you see, from a journalistic, perspective, because people wonder, how can the news all, be, lined up one way politically or another way politically? Technically, all you would have to do is have powerful people inserted into 6 different companies, and you could control basically 90% of the content that goes on. And from a journalistic perspective, we talk about a lot of journalism, on this show, and I think it's important to do that. It's important to know what we're talking about when we're talking about journalism, and it's important to know that we're talking about a really changed profession. And at this time, I think I want to. I came across something online this week that used to be kind of second nature to me, but I've kind of misplaced it, and it was the journalist's creed, and it was written by the first dean of the Missouri School of Journalism, Walter Williams, and it's important to know that journalism does have a creed, and it kind of used to be this: I believe in the profession of journalism. I believe that the public journal is a public trust, that all connected with it are, to the full measure of their responsibility, trustees for the public, and that acceptance of a lesser service of the public service is a betrayal of this trust. I believe that clear thinking and clear statement, accuracy, and fairness are fundamental to good journalism. I believe that a good journalist should only write what he holds true in his heart to be true. I believe that suppression of the news for any consideration other than the welfare of society is indefensible. I believe that no one should write as a journalist what he would not say as a gentleman. Look at that. That bribery by one's own pocketbook is as much to be avoided as bribery by the pocketbook of another. Fascinating. And the last one says, I believe that journalism which succeeds best and deserves best success, fears God and honors man, is stoutly independent, unmoved by pride or opinion, of greed, of power, constructive, tolerant, but never careless, self-controlled, patient, always respectful of its readers, but always unafraid, and quickly indignant and injustice. and is unswayed by the appeal of privilege or the clamor of the mob, seeks to give every man a chance, and as far as law and an honest wage and recognition of human brotherhood can make it so, an equal chance, is profoundly patriotic while sincerely promoting international goodwill and cementing world comradeship, is a journalism of humanity and for today's world. The reason I read that and powerful is because, as we talked about on this show, journalism is in trouble. Journalism has lost its way. And it is not too far of a jump to realize that the reason that journalism has lost its way is because of this consolidation of media that's taken place. If you could control the news media of the United States of America by influencing 6 major corporations, that would be a task that is doable. If you had enough money, if you had enough desire to do it, you could do it and no one would notice, right? Not that it's ethical to do so, not that it's the right thing to do, not those kind of things, but it is certainly possible. And this is something that we need to keep in mind when we're paying attention to the news media. Now, as we've just reported many times on this show, trust in the news media has fallen to record numbers. A lot of that comes from, basically selling out, especially on the political side, and just forgetting its obligation to be objective, and instead everything is about an opinion of people that you don't know and can't see and those kind of things. And instead of sort of allowing people to kind of presenting the facts and allowing people to make up their own mind, journalism to these days has decided it's going to make up its mind for you and try to steer you that way. And that's not right. That is fundamentally wrong and shouldn't be happening. And I think it represents a tremendous opportunity for someone to come in here and start winning over viewers by sort of being, objective, less opinionated, things like that. I think there's a lot of opportunity in that, and I think you'll see that grow in the future. So, here's an interesting fact that we found. The FCC used to be responsible for making sure that we didn't have large monopolies of media channels, right? And in 1995, the FCC forbade companies to own over 40 radio stations. Yet today, Clear Channel owns more than 1,200 stations. So basically, Clear Channel owns the radio and has for some point in time. And as a business model, that may make sense. And as a PR person, you're like, yeah, great, we could just pitch Clear Channel and get our stuff over 1,200 stations. I get that. As a republic, we have to look and say one company controls 1,200 stations. This could potentially be a problem if the owners of that company decided to start swaying people's opinions subtly with their channel, for lack of a better word. We need to move it back to where it was in the 1980s, where there were more than 50 companies, running the various media. Because having this consolidation is extraordinarily dangerous, because if one of these companies acquires the other one, you could easily be down to 4 and 3 and less type of companies controlling 90% of the content that comes out, right? So we need to know that this FCC deregulation and these mergers and acquisitions, have allowed these giants to really dominate our media landscape. And now let's spend a second and just talk about what's coming. Because guess who's coming to this party? That's right, Apple. Apple is coming in, and everybody else's market valuation, you were all impressed when we were saying, yeah, it's a $232 billion, it's $202 billion. Who wants to know what Apple's valuation is? $1 trillion. $1 trillion. So on any chart that you're going to have, you have the largest company on planet Earth getting ready to come into the media space, getting ready to develop its own television broadcast, its own streaming service, its own media empire. And with that much money, extraordinarily powerful entrant into the space. But, and those of you maybe finishing my thought for me, we go from 6 companies to 7, right? And now because nobody's going to buy Apple. Good luck. It's likely Apple could buy any of these other companies. You know, they could open up their wallet and say, you know, Hulu's only $15 billion. Let's snag Hulu. And they might, by the way. They've been sniffing around it, and there's been some news that says that they may purchase it. So it could certainly happen. Or, you know, hey, let's pick up Cox Communications, you know, which has 4 million video subscribers and 5 million broadband subscribers. Let's do any of those kind of things, you know. I mean, certainly possible that Apple could buy AT&T. And boy, then you've got a powerhouse, right? You've got one of the largest circles on the grid now controlled by Apple. You also have Google has made some announcements that it's going to come in and dabble and create some of its own program. Google has a ton of money as well. Could also be a very powerful entrant, you know, into this space. You know, the media landscape is fascinating, but when we report these things on this show, when we're talking about these things, what I want you to keep in mind is that, you know, the more consolidation that we're seeing, you know, is not good for journalism. It's not good for the perception of what's going on with journalism. Like I said, you want, from a standpoint of the population, you want a lot more choke points. You don't want to have 6 choke points that somebody could get to, and they could get to and infect every single one of them, and then be able to kind of push, let's say, any kind of political message and those kind of things. And I mean, and you see CNN, we've talked about what a toilet bowl CNN is. I mean, it is a complete and total fire sale on ethics going on over there, just for the point of, you know, their reporters, I guess, think that they're right. And that's why they have record low ratings, because people are like, well, we can't trust this garbage. This is being pushed by another agenda, right? People are smart, you know. So anyway, kind of important. And also, I failed to mention a couple of other people that are hanging out in the media landscape that we should mention real quick. Don't forget about Amazon. $891 billion market cap, hanging out on the periphery, starting to create its own, you know, content, starting to create, I mean, they have their own shows, starting to create their own media channel. Are they going to have a news channel? They could. They easily could. Facebook's out there at $494 billion. You have these, you know, and they could be a channel. Well, we're talking about the state of the media and how it's all changing here on May the Best Brand Win on Entertalk Media, the undisputed leader in music biz talk. Come on back. We're going to talk about who's winning and losing it this week. See you in a few.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
This is Jackie Bertoni from Jackie's Groove. Come join me weekly on my journey through the music business as I take you behind the velvet rope, interviewing industry notables such as Al Di Meola, Michael McDonald, and Al Jarreau, to name but a few. Listen to their stories on being in the studios recording #1 hits and onto the stages throughout the globe. Allow me to be your music historian. You can hear me live every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time or 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com. Ready to get your groove on?
Hi, I'm Tim Dolbear, the host of Sound Experience on Entertalk Radio. Each week, I talk with top professional audio engineers, producers, musicians, and the manufacturers that make the tools that we use in the studio each and every day. From capturing the perfect take to mastering your final release, and the tools and how the pros use them, we are going to dive deep into their process and learn from their experience. I look forward to you joining us each week on Sound Experience with me, your host, Tim Dolbear.
Make this your vinyl night. I'm John J.R. Robinson, and every week, music creation comes alive through stories, experiences, and sounds when vinyl records filled our hearts and minds. My friends and I share our tips and techniques used in creation of iconic tracks for recording artists such as Michael Jackson, Eric Clapton, Quincy Jones, and Steve Winwood, to name a few. Vinyl has emerged hot, and the soul of vinyl defines art and passion which burns deepest at night. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on entertalkradio.com.
May the best brand win with Scott Robertson's Music Biz Marketing Strategies. Now, here's your host, Scott Robertson.
Hey, everybody. Happy Friday. You are tuned to May the Best Brand Win on Entertalk Radio, the undisputed leader in music biz talk. I am Scott, your host. We're talking about the state of the media. We're talking about consolidation. Paul B is trying to not fall asleep back in the studio. How's it going today, Paul?
Good.
Did you listen in on all my ranting and raving?
A little bit. It's definitely, well, it's kind of a weird thing. So on one hand, you have a lot of media being consolidated into these juggernauts, and on the other hand, because of the internet, you have all these, other media outlets, ourselves included, that can kind of do their own thing. And if people tend to congregate towards non-mainstream outlets because they're sick of it and tired of it and they want an alternative voice, this is a good time for that.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point as well. It's shocking how the quote unquote kind of mainstream media really come from like six places. You can find like six parents of them.
Yeah,
and that can't be good.
But
that can't. Yeah,
of course, and the more and more consolidated they are, and the more obvious it becomes, the less people are inclined to trust them, and we're seeing that lately. So it may be kind of like the last kind of death throes of that old model, or maybe not. Who knows?
Yeah, no kidding. It is interesting. It is. On segment 3, we're going to come back. I'm going to give you some tips for winning in the current media landscape, really any media landscape. So give you a few tips. All right, cool. Let's talk about who's winning and losing. Good Lord. So another banner week in marketing. This week, the infamous Croc shoes, the plastic shoes that were so popular, now they have a new twist on them that may be perfect for those theme park trips. Crocs has teamed up with Beams to bring you Crocs with little miniature fanny packs on your shoes. It gives shoe fanatics all the comfort and style of the original Crocs, but now with a place to store keys, cash, cards, and other personal items on a little pocket on your shoes, which look, ridiculous. Is how I'll say. Awful and terrible. So this is a great example for marketers out there. These are the kind of things when people raise these in a meeting, like an engineer says, "Hey, we found a way we can put little fanny packs on the shoes." What do you say in that meeting? If you're in that meeting and you are PR marketing, let's say you're Thanos, what do you say? You say, no. You throw something at that engineer, and you stop it as early as you can in the process. Because otherwise, your company comes out with plastic shoes that have fanny packs on them. And then that's losing, right? That's all kinds of losing. We don't want to see people walking around with fanny packs on the shoes. You don't need fanny packs on your shoes. You have actual pockets in most of your clothing. And if you don't, then you should get some. Get some clothing with some pockets, or carry a bag that is those kind of things. But you don't need to put this stuff in your shoes because it looks ridiculous and it's unnecessary. So what's the product development rule that we go by on this show? Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Engineers come in and say, "Scott, hey, look what we can do." And I stop them and I say, "Right, but you shouldn't." Right? Nobody wants this. This is a bad idea. It's bad for society, to be quite honest. So anyway, Crocs with fanny packs, losing. You know who else is losing is Chase. Man, Chase got nailed this week because they have a Monday motivation tweet. Maybe you saw it. Basically, Chase, America's largest bank, tried to offer some tips on saving money on Twitter, and they tweeted a hypothetical conversation between a bank and a customer. And it suggested that the customer should cut their unnecessary expenses, try making coffee at home or walking instead of taking a cab. And then Twitter erupted and said, "You're insensitive and screw you," and all those kind of things. And it came across as shaming the poor. Oh, that was kind of fascinating. And so Chase deleted the Monday motivation tweet and pledged to be more sensitive on social media in the future. Thanks for the feedback, Twitter world, Chase tweeted. Definitely losing. And this goes to one of our rules in social media. The audience will tell you what they like and they don't like, and you are doing this to what? Build relationships with them. You're trying to, do those things. So if you are taking it the other direction with your social media, then that's a bad thing. And that's a bad thing. But sometimes I see, it's hard to be funny. All the things that we talk about on Twitter that are funny, comedy always has an edge, right? It always has a surprise, a novelty, a bit of an edge. And sometimes to get close enough to that edge, sometimes you step over the line and those kind of things. But I'm never a fan of deleting tweets. It's kind of like, I don't know. It's just like if you said it, we all know you said it. People have screenshots of it. You deleting it doesn't do anything, right? Just put your statement out there about, okay, that's great. We're going to get better and we're going to do that. But don't delete tweets and stuff like that. Here's the thing. It makes you seem more guilty than you probably are. And everybody knows you said it. It's not like you can pretend you didn't say it, So I don't know. I put that in firmly losing just because the way they handled it was losing. God, speaking of losing, Coachella, good God. So Coachella has quite a spike in herpes. A record 250 cases were reported per day near the festival. So Coachella is getting some notoriety because of its record-setting surge in herpes. Herp Alert, a website that diagnoses and treats herpes, says cases of the disease skyrocketed in towns surrounding the famed festival. Gross, man. Gross. Seriously, kids, get it together out there. None of us even want to read this story, and it's just, it's all bad, and then they remind you that while not all herpes are sexually transmitted, practicing safe sex or avoiding sharing food or drinks can reduce exposure to both forms of herpes. Good God. Good job, Coachella. Way to break records in all kinds of disgusting ways. And if you're thinking about going to Coachella, this is the kind of story that will keep you away from there for the rest of your life, right there. So that's how I think. I'm like, I'm good. I'll watch the stream. I'm good. I'll just watch the video. We're good. McDonald's is kind of winning because they have a new partnership with AARP to hire some older workers. McDonald's gets a lot of flack for trying to automate people out of jobs and stuff, and they have a lot. If you go into a McDonald's, I went to a McDonald's this week, and there was nobody actually working at the front counter. Everybody was back preparing food, and occasionally somebody would pop up and they would put an order out, but there was nobody actually that you could order from because they want you to order from the kiosks and stuff, and then their people sort of fulfill it, and then the first time you see their actual human beings is where they pop out and they give you their food. Even though there's 2 cash registers right there, and I thought that was kind of interesting. But McDonald's, so they get a lot of flack for automation and getting rid of jobs and that kind of thing. But McDonald's wants to hire more baby boomers. They want to hire more. They're working with AARP to hire more workers over the age of 50 to help kind of fill new positions. And they're doing job postings on AARP's website and utilizing several employment programs to help match candidates with the right job. To me, your golden years of retirement should not be spent at McDonald's. I'm just going to go on a limb and say it. I think, everybody wants to stop working at some point and enjoy life. Working at McDonald's is not that path. In my opinion, I don't think that's good. So, but I do think it's winning for McDonald's because, like I said, they are creating jobs and they're doing it in sort of an interesting way, and they're creating press for it and that kind of thing. So, I will put it in winning. But if I'm an older person and I'm working at McDonald's, like in my 70s or something, I don't think that means I've managed my retirement savings appropriately, is what I'll say. So there you go. Hey, speaking of fast food, and we were. Can we talk about Burger King? Burger King made some news this week. basically taking another dig at McDonald's. They are launching what they call real meals, since nobody is happy all the time. And they have, let's see what they have. They have a blue meal, a DeGaff meal, a pissed meal. Basically, they have all these different meals that are coming. They all include a flame grilled Whopper, fries, and a drink, and this kind of thing. And then what was interesting about it, so it's clever, right? And people are kind of laughing about it and saying, that's funny. But what's interesting about it is the tie-in. It's the mood-themed meals are part of a partnership with Mental Health America for Mental Health Awareness Month. And I think that part of it is really smart, is really cool and really smart. And the fact that, we always talk about after like a shooting in this country that there's not enough focus on mental health and how important it is and those kind of things. And here you have a fast food restaurant, in a really, really creative way, tying into Mental Health Awareness Month in a really kind of interesting and creative way. The only problem that I see you have is that the food is actually Burger King food, and Burger King food blows. It's terrible. It's not. It's just awful. It's not the food that you want. Obviously, the opinions expressed on this show are mine. But like, if I'm eating at Burger King, everything else was closed, or it was just really close, or because their food is sort of down the chain for me. I mean, if I have a chance to do Chick-fil-A or Wendy's or even McDonald's or those kind of things, those are the restaurants I'm picking. I don't know. Their food just isn't very good. And so I think that's, marketing's great. Food, give the food a 4, out of 10, that kind of thing. But awesome tie-in, smart, very smart marketing, very smart marketing. And Burger King has been on it quite a bit with a lot of things, digs they take at McDonald's. What's interesting, everybody's taking shots at McDonald's always. And McDonald's chief marketing officer always says, we don't ever respond to stuff like that because we're the leader. And we don't really ever kind of give credence to that. We think it's funny and, and that sort of thing. We just kind of laugh it off. And then we just kick their butt up, down, up one side and down the next, in terms of our performance. So I always think that's kind of funny. Another one of the meals was a salty meal. In case you're not quite angry, but you're a little salty, that kind of thing. I thought that was funny. So Burger King, we're going to put you in winning, except for none of us want to eat your food. There's a new study looking at freshwater marine life in the UK has found a bunch of cocaine inside freshwater shrimp. Yes, that happens. And, all these shrimp have a bunch of cocaine and illegal pesticides. So the pesticides part is kind of weird. But isn't the cocaine thing that's kind of weird. And so I made a joke on social media and I said, this is Red Lobster's like foaming at the mouth going, okay, now it's time to create all you can eat cocaine shrimp. And here we go. And then if you bread it with coconut, you could have coconut cocaine shrimp. I mean, that could really work. There's a lot of ways that could work. That would be solid. But I think we're going to put it in losing for right now because obviously the waterways in this area or marine life in the UK have way too much cocaine for your average shrimp. And, shrimp are, maybe these shrimp are, maybe they partied too much. Maybe they need to be counseled. There needs to be some counseling that is provided to these shrimp. We're not sure, but I would say so. We talked about Verizon in the media section of the program earlier. And Verizon wants to sell Tumblr now. Only 2 years after acquiring it, a new story comes out that's it's all over the place. But I found this one on Mashable. But basically, they're seeing a little buyer's remorse here. The telecom giant is looking to offload the social blogging site, and they're looking for a buyer right now. It was founded in 2007 and purchased by Yahoo for $1.1 billion in 2013. It was a landmark acquisition of Yahoo back in the day, but they say there's been some managerial missteps and these kind of things, and you wonder how much, how much is Verizon going to sell this thing for? When they have, they've paid a bunch of money for it, and it'd be interesting to see what they're going to do with it. One of the buyers for this is actually Pornhub, and so seeing as a way to, I guess, expand their kind of adult, empire and that sort of thing. And the whole internet was born out of that sort of thing. So it could be interesting to see, it's going to be interesting to see if Verizon offloads Tumblr to exactly who they're going to sell it to and that kind of thing. Again, like I said, the media landscape is always changing, and that's why you got to pick your head up every once in a while and make sure you're understanding who owns what and why that matters, for your media strategy. So interesting stuff. But I think we'll put that in. I don't know if it's winning or losing. Really, I think it's probably losing if you have to sell it 2 years after acquiring it. You got some buyer's remorse for they don't really know what to do with it. It's probably losing right now. But yeah, let's see who ends up buying it, and it might turn into a winning story after all. We'll see. Another one that I wanted to bring up is Warren Buffett recently said that newspapers were toast, and I think we mentioned that on the show. I believe it was last week. But there's quite a lot of discussion around, and this ties into our media discussion of the whole show, is that for every reporter, there are 6 workers in PR. And the number of PR specialists keeps rising. The number of journalists keeps kind of falling, right? And, it's interesting because, obviously I'm a public relations professional. And the fact that we outnumber the journalists, 6-1, is really, really interesting. Public relations exceed. It's up from less than 2-1 20 years ago. So now we got a lot more PR people. And then one of the problems that I see with this is that sometimes when people are reporting this, they instantly go to the place of like, oh, well, there's a lot more people that are out there lying than there are people that are telling the truth. Well, I would take issue with that and say it depends on what journalist you're talking about, because I can show you a bunch of journalists that don't tell the truth. And it depends on what PR person you're talking about, because, it's really good for business if you do tell the truth. And if you're, honest and transparent, those things are really good for business. I don't know anybody who makes it long-term in PR by, lying professionally. We save that for members of Congress. Those people lie professionally and pretty much on a daily basis. But PR doesn't, right? And so it's important to know who you're talking about when you're doing that. But it is something to certainly keep watching. To me, I think it's the only way that we get journalistic content in this country, because PR assists journalism at a very, very high level. We help all those journalists get their jobs done, hopefully, and then allow them to meet their impossible deadlines with fewer and fewer of them to do the work. And that's who's winning and losing this week, folks. You're tuned to May the Best Brand Win on Entertalk Media. Undisputed leader on Music Biz Talk. Come on back. I'm going to give you some tips for winning in the current media landscape. See you in a few. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Tim Dolbear, the host of Sound Experience on Entertalk Radio. Each week, I talk with top professional audio engineers, producers, musicians, and the manufacturers that make the tools that we use in the studio each and every day. From capturing the perfect take to mastering your final release, and the tools and how the pros use them, we are going to dive deep into their process and learn from their experience. I look forward to you joining us each week on Sound Experience with me, your host, Tim Dolbear.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
Make this your vinyl night. I'm John J.R. Robinson, and every week, music creation comes alive through stories, experiences, and sounds when vinyl records filled our hearts and minds. My friends and I share our tips and techniques used in creation of iconic tracks for recording artists such as Michael Jackson, Eric Clapton, Quincy Jones, and Steve Winwood, to name a few. Vinyl has emerged hot, and the soul of vinyl defines art and passion which burns deepest at night. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on EntertalkRadio.com.
This is Jackie Bertoni from Jackie's Groove. Come join me weekly on my journey through the music business as I take you behind the velvet rope, interviewing industry notables such as Al Di Meola, Michael McDonald, and Al Jarreau, to name but a few. Listen to their stories on being in the studios recording #1 hits and onto the stages throughout the globe. Allow me to be your music historian. You can hear me live every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time or 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com. Ready to get your groove on?
May the best brand win with Scott Robertson's Music Biz Marketing Strategies. Now, here's your host, Scott Robertson.
Hey everybody, happy Friday, happy Tres de Mayo. You are tuned to May the Best Brand Win on Entertalk Media, the undisputed leader in music biz talk. I am still Scott, your host, hanging out with Paul B. Did a whole bunch of winning and losing. Paul, what stuck out to you this week? What do you like?
I was only getting bits and pieces of stuff because Hans, our intern, was in here distracting me with this, that, and the other. So I know there's something about Jack in the Box and Coachella and herpes, but I can't really weave it into a complete narrative.
I'm going to get a letter from Jack in the Box's lawyer. They're going to be like, did you say that we have a new herpes in a box? Meal? We have new herpes meal coming out for Jack in the Box. No, those are two different stories. Burger King has the different mood meals, and then Coachella has record cases of herpes. Yes.
Come on, kids. It's
kids.
It's 2019. All the information is out there.
Exactly. And let's say you were trying to convince, your significant other to go down to Coachella. You're like, we should go down to Coachella. It's going to be great. And then, okay, I'll just Google it and see what comes up. Ugh. Herpes. Come on, man. Come on. Like you said, the information is out there, man. Too much fun. Hey, well, I got you. So give us this little preview of what you guys are going to... You're going to talk about rec reviews tonight. So that's why you guys get drunk and you review movies, right? Yep. Awesome. So tonight you're doing Endgame.
Endgame, which is kind of also an endgame for us because we tend to really spend way too much time like doing Marvel movies and half of the time we don't really feel like watching them, but we're obligated because it's whole part of this narrative. So this is going to be a catharsis for all of us, I think.
You're like, it has to end sometime.
Yeah, fine.
So give me a little sneak preview. What'd you guys think of what'd you think of Endgame?
I like that. So the interesting thing about this is one of my co-hosts, Shark, is like he's the grumpy one that like almost never likes anything and just like complains and bitches and moans about everything.
Doesn't like anything. Yeah.
And he actually loved it, and he actually paid money to see it in the movie theater, which is also kind of unusual.
Whoa!
And saw it twice, and we're like, wow, the grumpiest of us has really, really enjoyed it. So that's. And I think he even admitted to maybe tearing up a couple of times.
Yeah, powerful. Did you tear up in Endgame at all?
A little bit in one part. I was watching it with my girlfriend, and she's like, every one of those like hard tugging moments, she's like, I think this is where Shark cried. This must be it.
Oh, nice.
We're trying to figure out which moment got him. So I'll find out tonight, hopefully.
There you go. Well, you guys got to tune in for that. That's definitely true. I loved the movie. I thought it was an absolute masterpiece. I think it's so hard to have that many characters and that many stories and be able to kind of pace it right and have the right timing. And even though it's 3 hours, how do you get through this, massive story and make it satisfying?
Yeah.
Right. And that includes like the epilogue side of the story too, which is like, because there's a lot to the, how to tie a lot of this stuff up, right?
Yeah.
It takes up a lot of screen time. So
yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I just think that's it's a huge challenge in storytelling, right?
It is, and it wasn't. Yeah. It wasn't flawless because it was a big mess that they had to unravel. So there's definitely a couple of things here and there without giving away any spoilers on this show that. But it's kind of forgivable and understandable considering how many storylines they had to resolve, and so overall it was good, and it did not feel like 3 hours. I mean, I wasn't bored for it.
One of my favorite stories was they told you the exact opportune time to go take a pee during the movie. They said when Thor goes to Asgard and he's talking to his mom, go pee.
Yeah, that would have. I didn't have to, luckily, but yeah, that would have been a good moment to go.
They give you like different cues in the movie where you could use the restroom safely and not miss that much.
Wow, you're watching this like on several different levels.
Yeah, I was laughing my butt off when I was like that. I was like, wow, imagine that your people are giving you the actual cues as to when you should probably use the restroom so as not to miss, cool or important stuff that are coming up in the movie. Yeah, man, good. I tell you what, good movie and really a hard assignment and well done,
and made so much damn
pressure.
money.
Oh my God, it's going to be the biggest movie ever. It deserves to be.
I think
it's an absolute masterpiece.
That already has made like over $1 billion in the first weekend, something like that, right?
Yeah. No, it's insane. It is totally insane. Well, cool, brother. All right, let's get into some tips, folks. We're talking about the state of the media, and I wanted to give some tips that you can use to kind of win in the current media landscape. And of course, as no surprise, I think we're going to start with a good strategy. And I know that does sound obvious, but as somebody who works in this stuff all the time, there isn't always a battle plan drawn up. There's just sort of, let's draw our guns and run out there and see what the hell happens kind of approach. And that's not going to work all the time. You might get lucky and it might work a little bit, but you need to have a strategy. And it needs to go like this. Who are we trying to reach? Exactly where are they? Exactly how are we trying to reach them? Right? Which channels are they paying attention to? And this isn't the fun part of the job. When you're researching audience numbers, who traffics which websites, which those kind of things, and it changes all the time too. So you could be an expert at it one year, and the next year it's slightly different, and you're not an expert anymore. So you need to kind of steep yourself in this stuff all the time, consistently, because it's always changing. Like I said, depending on who buys Tumblr, if you have a presence on Tumblr for your brand, and Verizon owns it one day, and then Pornhub owns it the next day, well, you better think it through. Right? Who's my, do we have the same goals now, as who owns the channel, and it's important. So you're never going to go wrong in marketing, starting with a strategy. Slow down, put a strategy together. All business terms come from military terms. No one has ever launched a successful military assault by accident, that I know of. Nobody's ever stumbled into it and said, well, we're going to take this, the military always have a plan, and then they have a backup plan for that. And they usually have a backup plan for that and probably another backup plan for that. That's how the military is involved. There are multiple levels of planning going on, right? We need to do more of that in business. I see a lot of companies that run from tactic to tactic to tactic, and they don't. And then when you stop them and kind of, in the heat of battle and say, why are you doing this? Why are you exhibiting at this trade show? Because we always did. And because we get leads and stuff, and we, it's good for marketing and branding and stuff. It's good, right? It's like you're having a conversation with friggin' Tommy Boy. You're like, no. It goes like this, do it. You want to answer it like a cyborg, right? You want to say this percentage of our audience pays attention to this website. We know that they have, these numbers. We are reasonably certain that those aren't fake numbers, and we, so we are going to invest, our ad dollars, our earned dollars. We're going to try to get shared content relationships with these channels because this is how we're going to try to reach people, right? Really, it's really important. Strategy. So important and so often overlooked. Tip number 2, make sure you create the right mix to attract your audience. Now, this comes down to kind of our paid media, advertising, our earned media, which is like public relations and editorial support and, influencers and bloggers and that kind of thing. And then the stuff that we own ourselves and our own content, that we create. What is our mix of that? And how are we designing the right plan to attract the right people to our audience? As I often advocate on the show, attraction beats interruption every day and twice on Sunday. Because, and here's why. People don't like to be annoyed by marketing. When you annoy people with marketing, and believe me, they will make the decision of whether they're annoyed or not. So if you're sitting in the room and saying, well, our marketing's not annoying, and I think so, well, if they decide that it isn't, then you lose. Okay? So a better way to do it is to attract people in, right? That's how Thanos would do it. No, that's how we do it. Attract people. And we can do this in a number of different ways. Certainly paid media is an interruption, but maybe our stuff is good enough that the interruption is going to be okay. Our earned stuff, is going to, we're kind of risk-free on that. We're attracting people to other outlets and other things, and then we're just amplifying those things. So we're pretty much in the clear risk-wise there. And then our owned media, we're good because we're creating our own stuff. It has our own messaging, our own videos, our own things that are useful to people. And because they're so great, and because they are so great, it's something that we know we're okay with. It's fine. So, try to create that perfect right mix, to attract your audience. Again, attraction versus interruption, magnets versus sales funnels and stuff like that. I always say a magnet beats a funnel every single time. Make sure that you know that. Make sure that you know that in this day and age of marketing, if you are attracting, if you are pushing people down the funnel and not caring how many people that you're bothering, you're on the wrong side of history. And there's a lot of big forces coming for you that are going to shut that down in the next few years, just so you know. As we talked about in the winning and losing section, tip number 3, there are fewer journalists out there. There's one journalist for every 6 PR people pitching. To me, that means that they need us more than ever. It means that those journalists out there are still being asked to do the same job as they did when they had a bunch more people. So they're overworked, overtasked, behind on everything. And that means if we can pull statistics for them, if we can get them images, if we can make sure they don't have to chase our people to get comments, if we can be their editorial assistants, then we can win right alongside them. We're helping them get what they need for a story. And in return, our clients are getting the visibility that they need to build the trust with the audiences that they want to attract the right audiences so that we can kind of build the relationships that we're trying to do, which is the ultimate goal of this whole marketing stuff, right? Really, really important to understand that there are fewer journalists. Like I said, one for every 6 PR people. And again, that to me is a tremendous opportunity for us doing, let's say you're a director of marketing, for, a medical company. You may be sitting on some data that is important for some journalists out there. And if they don't have to dig for it, if you can provide it to them in bits, then they will give you credit for that and say it came from this company, their thought leader, they're all those kind of things. Because they will be appreciative of your help in trying to put the story together. PR is about relationships, and people misread that all the time and say, "Oh, well, Scott, you just have people you can call at various media outlets, and they'll take your call and they'll kind of do this." The reason they take my call is because I have a long reputation of not wasting their time, not being annoying, not being sending them stuff that's untargeted, not doing all the stupid stuff that other people do that piss them off. I don't do any of those things. Instead, I think through, hey, how can I help this reporter get their job done? It really isn't rocket science. It does require more work. It requires more time. But to me, it's a good trade-off. That's what you want. Tip number 4 is, we talked about all the different partnerships that are out there. Universal, Disney's owned by, or ABC's owned by Disney, things like that. Leverage your partnerships. If you were doing something with a celebrity, one of my clients recently had Harry Connick Jr., and we were doing some stuff. Well, where is Harry Connick Jr. going to have his biggest bang for the buck? NBC, right? Because he's on Will and Grace. He's been on Will and Grace. He's a friend of the Today Show, all those kind of things. So instantly when we were thinking about, Harry Connick Jr. and this, we were thinking NBC because we were like, yeah, that makes sense. But his audience and certainly the network that's going to be really receptive to him is going to be NBC. If you have the Avengers then you're thinking ABC, right? You're and plus, let's be honest. If you have the Avengers, then ABC is not going to let you do too much else because of anti-competitive things and all that fun stuff that comes with that. But make sure you leverage those partnerships, and I mean that all the way kind of down the chain, right? You've got your Netflix, that kind of thing, or you're doing something you're doing something with Netflix celebrities. It's like which independent stations and things like that are going to be most likely to to work with Netflix stars and those kind of things. Again, sometimes it just takes kind of getting in a room and tying some pieces of yarn and figuring out who's connected to who and that kind of thing. And it does change quite a bit. Don't forget. So make sure you're doing that. Leverage those partnerships. And then my last tip is keep watching, because it is changing. Like I said, you've got some very powerful new entrants on the edge of the waters here. Apple, Amazon, Google, Facebook. Are those companies going to be, PR opportunities that are coming up in terms of, yeah, probably. There are probably going to be some opportunities to reach audiences with their reach. Apple's going to be a really fascinating one as they start to create their own original programming. I mean, can you just imagine how much the company of Apple has changed, that now they have stars lined up and they're creating their own original programming? Verizon is selling Tumblr. I mean, all these things are coming in. So keep watching the environment, because it will change. It will change on you. And you must know that, who owns who and sort of why and for how long and those kind of things. Because if you're doing marketing communications, it's part of our job. So what have we learned today, folks? We've learned that the media is always changing, and it has changed a lot in recent years. We do have some new entrants coming in, Apple, Google, Facebook, the rest. It's going to make it even more interesting as we, the marketers of this world, are looking for the very best media channels out there, so that we can deliver our messages. This whole thing is about, I've knocked Thanos down about 15 times, by the way. And there's Thanos. There he is. He's back. We're looking for the very best channels so that we can deliver our messages and create trust in a trust-free world. That's it for me, folks. Until next time, this has been Scott Robertson, host of May the Best Brand Win, only on Entertalk Radio. We'll talk to you real soon. Rock on.
You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it, because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on Entertalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable. Hi, this is Tim Dolbear from Eclectica Studios. I'm a full-time mixing and recording engineer. I work with Grammy winners, labels, and indie artists, using state-of-the-art digital mixing and restoration tools and the very best in analog gear. Really, though, it's my ability to bring tracks to life and fulfill your vision for your music. This has made me sought after by producers and artists worldwide. So spend your time working on music and not chasing a mix down a rabbit hole. Go to timdolbear.com and check out our free one-song mix offer.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
This is Jackie Bertoni from Jackie's Groove. Come join me weekly on my journey through the music business as I take you behind the velvet rope, interviewing industry notables such as Al DiMeola, Michael McDonald, and Al Jarreau, to name but a few. Listen to their stories on being in the studios recording #1 hits and onto the stages throughout the globe. Allow me to be your music historian. You can hear me live every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time or 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com. Ready to get your groove on?